We are on Word for the Soul. I am Overseer M. Alexander with my special guest, Bishop Trevor Alexander, as he's looking on, getting ready to add it to his Facebook.
Yeah.
And so go ahead and like, tag, and share. We are on Words for the Soul Week 124. We are talking about relax, release, and relate. Matter of fact, we're both getting ready to pull it up on our phones. So you see what we're doing. My phone is taking just a little bit, but there we go. We are live. Go ahead and share. I'm sharing my page now.
Because I'm not on. You keep on going.
Okay. So this evening, as we talk about relax, release, and relate, want you to know that you are loved. God has called you. You have a purpose and a plan. And with Words for the Soul comes to encourage and equip you to be all that God has called you to be. So thank you so much for joining us tonight as we speak. Our guest we have up here is Bishop Trevor and M. Alexander, and we are so glad to have you with us. We are going to be talking about Words for the Soul. Bishop Alexander.
Somebody else gonna hear you.
Well, we asked everybody to come on. They're starting to come on.
Now.
You're starting to come on now. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and put in hashtag TVC Words for the Soul. Relax, release, relate. Whatever things that you would like to begin to put on there. Let someone know that we're on. We are live. We are live.
Live and in living color.
Yes, we are live in living color. I'm going to start off with this scripture as people are coming on, and I'm going to show this scripture coming from Luke chapter 5, verses 2 through 5. And it reads, "And he saw two boats by the lake, but the fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. Getting into one of the boats, which was Simon's, he asked him to put out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the people from the boat. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, 'Put out into the deep and let down your nets for a catch.' And Simon answered, 'Master, we toiled all night and took nothing, but at your word I will let the net down.'" So tonight, Bishop and I are going to be talking about mending our nets a little bit as we talk about relax, release, and relate. And before we have Bishop, I'm going to share this, and then I want you to kind of talk about mending our nets. For those who do not know, Bishop is in the midst of writing a book about mending his nets, and he'll share a little bit about that. I was reading in a part, chapter one of the book, and I was just reading a little bit of his book, and it says, "Washing and mending our mental health nets must become a priority." We're talking about relationships tonight. Washing and mending our nets must become a priority. Mending our mental health nets also must be a priority. A fisherman was washed their nets because over the course of time, debris will be attached to the nets. Debris may cause the net to be torn or break. If a fisherman does not take care of their nets, the economic impact of their lives can be devastating. The working condition of a fisherman, of a relationship, of a marriage, for those who are dating, can be very devastating and challenging. At the end of the day, and after they had been out to sea for long hours, coming back to shore to the dirty, the top priority is cleaning their nets. Their shift is not over until their nets are clean. So, as we're talking about mending our nets in relationships, can you just talk a little bit about mending our nets for those who are coming on? We see Sonia's made it on. Thank you, Tanya, who's made it on. And she's already put in there. You may go ahead and subscribe. Minister Vaughn, yes, you can. We can see. Thank you for coming on, Minister Vaughn and Sonia, and those who are in the car. Thank you, Tasha and Phoenix. And I'm sure others are watching. Go ahead and like, tag, and share. So, Bishop, what does it mean to mend our nets in a relationship?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me as your guest.
And happy birthday! Woo! If y'all want to say happy birthday to Bishop, I need to make sure I say that. Happy birthday to you, sir. And what does it mean to mend our nets in a relationship?
Well, let me start by saying the image for me is very important. Before Jesus called his disciples, they were washing those who were on the shore were washing their nets. And it's important for us before we go into any relationships to wash or mend any broken parts of us, right?
Oh, okay.
So even if you call to go become a doctor, a lawyer, a chief, bottle washer, whatever those case may be, or enter into a relationship, we need to know what's going on inside of us. Because if I enter this relationship, whether it be a friendship, intimate relationship, a marriage relationship, a boyfriend, girlfriend relationship, best friend relationship, we must address the broken parts of us. Because somewhere throughout that relationship, something is going to be said, done to expose our brokenness.
All right.
And many of us, I'm talking to me, because we may not like the pain, we hide the pain.
Okay.
And if you keep hiding stuff, eventually it's going to come out, right? So let's say when I go to the doctors, they ask me, am I allergic to anything? And I said, yes, pain.
Okay.
Well, all of us are allergic to pain to a certain degree.
Okay.
I don't like needles.
Okay.
So the minute I see a needle, I am traumatized that went through when I got vaccinated at a young age.
Okay.
Man, that thing hurt so bad. It's one of those Texas shots, right? A Texas shot hurts. And your arm gets stiff.
Okay.
I remember for like a whole day having ice put on that thing. And that traumatized me.
Oh, okay.
To this day. Every time I see a needle, I go back to that childhood experience.
Into other trauma.
Right. So that traumatized me from seeing a needle. Okay. Think about the broken parts of us. Anything that is broken can be re-traumatized.
Oh, yeah.
And if we don't take care of those things, not that it will ever go away.
All right.
It just may give you the tools to deal with whatever that is.
All right.
And so many of us want relationships, but we have not spent the time to address the broken piece, the torn pieces, the pieces that need to be washed, and the debris that's attached to us over the course of time. And here's another thing. Many of us who have been in relationships, always walk away from a relationship with a part of the debris from that relationship.
Whoa, powerful, Bishop.
That's profound.
Yes, it is.
Lanai.
So we're starting off with relax. We're talking about relax, release, and relate. So our first question to you, what is the Lord requiring me to do in this relationship? And as you guys are on chat, or if you're on Zoom or Facebook, what are some of the things God is requiring you to do in your relationships? That could be in a friendship, in your marriage, in your dating, and the things he's asking you to do in your professional life. So what are some of the things that the Lord is requiring you to do in your relationship?
Let me go on disclaimer.
Okay.
These questions are coming to me just as fresh as it is to you. So other guests have the luxury of having time beforehand. I'm just getting these questions. So what does the Lord require me to do
in a relationship? Yes, sir.
Any relationship.
Yes.
Right? So first, I would say, again, go back to mending my nets. Secondly, I think the question you need to ask yourself, what do I want this relationship to be?
Oh, very good.
And because I may want something from a relationship that the other person does not.
So my expectations in that relationship.
Expectation. Okay. And then share that with the person you plan to enter into. Right.
So being authentic in our conversation.
Right.
I've noticed as we have been in conversation, it's important to have the critical conversation in any relationship.
Yes.
Not being fearful to ask the question, even though you may not want to hear the answer. So as we're going back to that question, as we're releasing, to relax first, what does the Lord require me to do in my relationship? To be authentically me.
Right.
If I have a concern of how this relationship is going, I need to ask that.
So if I'm in a relationship and I have to dance around the eggshells, right? Then understand that may be the tone of your relationship throughout.
Ooh, wow. Yeah.
But if you can't do the hard work now,
yes.
The question I think for me,
okay,
am I willing to go the next step if they are not willing to go the next step? If I'm wanting more than the other person's wanting more, right? And I say this to you all the time.
Yeah.
You can't want more than the other person wants it.
Oh, yes. Because a lot of times when you're in a relationship or you are mentoring someone, you see so much in that person that they don't see within themselves. And so in doing so, you'd be like, oh, I want this for them. But if they're not wanting that, you have to have that conversation. You have to put it up in prayer. God, open up their hearts to receive, so that in our say that we relaxing that true self. God, help me to see me. If I have something that's broken within me, or there's something broken in the relationship I'm trying to establish, that we talk with it. I know for us in marriages, we have established from the since we got married that day, reminded we will not go to bed angry, that we would solve our issues before we go to sleep. The scripture says, don't let the sun go down in your wrath.
That was our mama, your
Yes,
mama.
yes.
Before we sailed off into the honeymoon stage.
Yes.
She pulled us into the bedroom. I'll never forget. It was like yesterday. And she started giving us some things to look for. Her words of wisdom, if you will.
Yes.
Before we now this is after we said I do.
Yes.
We've done the honeymoon, the wedding, the reception, everything else. We are changing to go into the honeymoon, and she pulls us into the bedroom and she gives us this word of wisdom. And the first thing she said, don't go to bed mad at each other.
And you know what? The thing about it is, yes, we read the book Men Are for Venus.
We read that later.
Yeah, but people still go into their caves. Even if you go into your cave or your man cave or whatever, your woman cave, come out and communicate. It's about talking and re-engaging.
Dominic says, being authentic to yourself, no matter the cost. Scripture says, count up the cost.
Count it up.
We need to count up the cost before you go into the relationship. Oftentimes, we count up when they're in the relationship.
Yes.
Then you must ask the question, how much I've already invested, right?
Right.
Now, if I invested so much, do I want to continue to invest, or do I cut my losses?
Now, as you're saying that, as we are asking that question, do I see this as a healthy relationship or an unhealthy relationship? Right. And so those are the things that you have to navigate in and be willing to deal with and accept. And it's okay. If you see those red flags, you respond to them and say, God, help me to, if I have to, let this go, then I continue to move on. So, I like that.
What did nephew say? Pick one thing and stick to it.
Okay, he said, pick one thing, stick with it, and move on to the next project, because I try to do it too much at one time. Try not to. An elephant. How do you chew an elephant? One bite at a time.
Now that's good advice, there, nephew. Pick one thing and stick with it, and make sure that thing that you stick with, you work out the details of that before you work to the next one. But nephew must be learning for something from uncle.
All right. So we talked about relax. So as we release, what does it mean to fish differently? It's gonna go right what you guys were just saying in a relationship. And go ahead, y'all can share in the chat, or on if you're on YouTube, put in there what does it look like you to fish differently in a relationship. Go ahead, Bishop, because I know how you want to take. I can feel that.
No, but it's first of all,
yes.
I think before we talk about fishing differently, we need to understand how we've been fishing.
Yes, sir. Are we doing this like this, or yes, right. or the whole net?
Because and I'll go back to something we heard today on whatever movie we were watching, Percy Jackson, I think.
Okay.
And I don't remember the quote. And I said, man, that's Sankofa.
Yes, you did. You got to remember what
we've basically the double vision, right? Life is lived moving forward, but understood looking back.
Yes.
When we look back, we can understand what we have been doing. And before we talk about fishing differently, many of us have been talking differently, but we haven't understood what we've been doing, right?
Yes.
And if we haven't fully understood what we've been doing, even fishing differently, we may repeat some of the same things subconsciously.
Yes.
Right? So we need to understand how we've been fishing, right? Then secondly, know what types of fish what type of method you're going to use. Are you going to cast a net?
Okay.
Or are you going to use a pole?
All right.
Right? Now, if I cast a pole, I have to understand what bait I'm using for the fish I'm going after.
Right.
And we said something in this morning Sunday school, and what lake you're fishing in. If you want trout and you're in the wrong lake, you never catch trout, right? Yeah. So you got to understand the terrain, understand the environment, understand where you are, right?
Yes.
And because that would also determine the fish you're going to get. Now, I know Sam and Sean used to go fishing, and oftentimes they came back empty-handed, maybe because they may have been using the wrong bait. I don't know, right? However, that's a throw off for Sam too. But But when you want to catch the fish, you got to know the pole, the environment, the bait you're using, and secondly, oh, that's the warehouse number I'm on. Determine how you fish, net or pole will also determine what you catch. The other thing is, if I'm casting a net, and I said it today, depending on the weight you have on the net, goes how deep you go down.
Yeah.
The deeper down you go, you may get different types of fish. Now, when you pull all that fish in the catching, everything that's in the net is your catch.
Right.
But maybe everything in the net is not what you want.
Or that's what you need.
Or what you need. Now you got to determine what to throw back and what to keep. So fishing differently in a relationship may mean knowing what you want out of a relationship before you start fishing. Right.
Woo, know what you want before you start fishing.
Yes.
Someone said throwing. Some people use a harpoon, or some people said, how long have I been fishing? I might have helped it or hurt it. As I think about fishing differently in a relationship, if I have been putting out a scent that I'm easygoing, and if I'm going to change my scent that I'm going when I walk past somebody, I have to change that.
Now you want to go back to
you
go back to our seminar days.
Yeah, we're going back there because if we are going to release our old habits and the things that we're doing, I have to change my methodology. I have to change my definition of who I am, because now I've come into the place I'm confident in the ability of the person. I'm authentically me, and I don't have to pretend. So if I want something that has purpose and destiny, I need to walk in it, that I want purpose and destiny in the relationship that I want.
So
speak. I know that's getting good. I know it is.
That's good. I'm going to be transparent here. When I was in the clubs.
Is this all relative to before or after you say I do? It can apply, Deaconess Sims, to before, after, because we're talking about how you are fishing differently in relationships. It can be in friendship, marriages. It can be as you're dating. But how can you fish differently to help you to do better in your relationship, to make sure it's a healthy one and not unhealthy? Right. Go ahead.
Uncle Sam said, Sean and I went fishing with the intention
to know each other.
So they didn't go to catch no fish.
Yeah, just giving God glory. All right. I love it.
Good save, Sam. When I was in the world, I went to the clubs, not to catch a fish for long term.
Right.
I catch a fish for short term.
For short term, yes, sir.
But when I wanted to settle down, and this is not throughout the entire, but some men would say, if you want to get a good woman, you go to the church.
Okay.
Because the church women had the scent of, I want a husband.
Okay.
The women in the clubs were for short pleasure.
Correct.
Right. So, however, I'm not saying that you can only find good women in churches,
right?
Because they're out there too, right? In the supermarket, you can find a good woman, right?
Library,
but what library?
School.
But, oh my God, in library. I mean, that might be even studying for a career. Anyway, that's sad. But when I'm going to the club, when I walked in the club, I marked off my territory,
right?
Based off what interaction I had from the moment I walked in. If you gave me the look of interest,
right?
That's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And I'm going to work the room, right? And whoever gives me the first bite, I knew from there, because that bite gave off the scent, gave off the aroma, gave off everything, right?
Yeah.
However, now I'm moving into a long-term relationship. I may find my wife in the club, right? But most of us are not going to the club back then. I know y'all are saved and sanctified now. When I went to the club, I didn't go to the club looking for a wife.
No.
I went to the club looking for a good time. You got to have a good time. Okay. However, if I want a relationship, now I got to fish differently. Right. I can't keep going back to the club. I can't keep going back to the same water hole, because the same water hole going to produce the same fish.
Yes. And you can't try to say you want to get a different person and you're still doing the same things.
Right.
You have to try something different. Right. You have to cast your nets and go into the deep. So it may be scary. You're trying, when you're fishing for new fish in a new net, you know what? God may even have you go different in any way. Right. Just ask the Lord, has the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you.
When you and I met, I was in the club, you was in the church. I wasn't looking for you to be my wife, right? but we all both had our own career, we were both military. However, once I determined to settle down, one of the first things I gave up.
The club.
Right. Because I was no longer looking
Right.
for short term.
Huh.
I found the long term. And I didn't want to mess up the long term by doing what? Going back to the old things.
So you have to release. So we've talked about, so you have to relax, to release. And then after you release some things, then you have to learn how to relate. So in our relating, what got you here would not get you there. So with that, what got you here will not get you there. And we're talking about in your relationships. Because a lot of times what you did in the beginning, you still, if you got me there for poetry and all that stuff, and running and walking and holding hands in the midnight, you still want to do that, but you may have to do something different now to get them to where you want to be. If we are going to enhance, if we say we're going to be bold and courageous, if we're thriving and elevating to the next level in relationships, you got to do some fresh stuff.
Yeah.
Our young people tell us that all the time.
Right. And if old stuff becomes old, if you let it get stale.
Right. But you can do old stuff and still make it fun.
Right.
Because it's creativity.
Right.
Spontaneity. Woo! Woo! Ah!
Now,
love it.
I want to go on the.
I love it.
On the defense right here.
Come on, Bishop.
When we first met, I used to write poetry.
Oh yes, you did, sir.
Almost one a day. Not at least one a week for sure.
Okay.
And I haven't done one in a while. However,
I
found a substitute. You ready for my substitute?
I'm listening, sir.
I make your water for you every day.
Yes, you do. You're the best water maker ever. You know what? Compliments and appreciation to the person in your relationship goes far. You may think, okay, he's making her a glass of water, but listen to this. In my water, he cuts up fresh lemons, put a little lemon juice in it, puts it in the refrigerator. So when I come down, it's nice and cold. It's a thought. It is that he has prepared something for me. If I'm rushing out, he knows, baby, you know what? I know you like this water, lemon water. And
three cups.
Yes. And so I'm trying to drink 64 ounces. So he makes 3 different containers for me to put in my large container, because the large one doesn't fit in the refrigerator. But just the simple things. What can you do differently to make things different? You want to make sure that you are releasing some things that what you did before, that you're not going to keep doing differently. He wasn't the best water maker in the beginning. He didn't do that because I wasn't into fresh waters and lemons. But now in this season, this is what I'm desiring. What is it that you're desiring in your relationship to do better and to do different? Go ahead and put that in the chat for us.
Now, Tanya, back in your day, she just wanted ice water.
Yes.
Now she wants ice water with lemons in it. So
yes. And then you can put mint. There's citrus. You can put sliced strawberries, whatever that may be. But what you're doing, you're letting that person know, you know what? I'm going to take time out of my schedule to make sure your day is productive. Or I'm just making you smile. Because when I get my water, I'm like, woo, honey, thank you. You have just ching put into your love bank.
Simple.
Yes.
A little bit of work.
Yes.
But simple.
And it didn't cost much. No.
And every relationship requires some type of work.
Yes.
Right? If you're cooking the favorite meal, that's work.
Yes, it is.
Unless you go to McDonald's and buy it, but still, you have to stop at the store, go to the drive-through. Mm-hmm. There's some type of sacrifice you have to make.
Right.
And it goes back to the scripture in Ephesians that we acquired. We are required husbands to love their wife as Christ loved the church.
All right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And gave his life for it. There's a sacrificial image there because Christ gave his life. That's a sacrifice. Mm-hmm. What am I willing to give to sacrifice for the relationship? What am I willing to give up? Right. I had to learn to give up the control sometimes.
Right.
And watch what you want to watch.
Oh, man.
Hallmarks.
Yes. Oh, we just talked about
see the joy
relating. As we're relating to one, what is it that relates to the person? As Bishop was saying, he gave up the control. What are some of the control things that you need to give up in your relationship? Are you the hog on that remote control? And whatever you want to watch, you did people, you just watch what I want to watch. Have you passed that control off to somebody that may be choosing where you're going to eat, what you're going to go out and do, what activity, what that may be? You're wanting to release that control. So in this relationship, remember to relax, to release, and to relate in that. Yes. So
Dominic had a good point.
Okay, let's see.
Dominic said something.
All right, let's see. Right here, fishing differently
might require one to go and get help to learn how to fish differently. That's so true. Sometimes we are attracted to a type.
Right. Oh, so true. If we go back
type, to our yes, may not be the type you need.
Yes.
But that's who you're attracted to.
And that's, you know what? But if you put off that scent in your relationships, you don't know any other type to go after. So yes, you may have to go and talk to someone. It may be a clinician, and it may be your pastors. It may be a seasoned person in marriage that doesn't mind sharing how to do things differently. So awesome question, Dominique. Thank you for sharing that, because you have to learn how to do things differently. Yeah, and be open to the change and just not having it your way. And it's not easy, because when someone shows you that you can do something differently, like but I'm so comfortable in my old behavior. So it is a stretch. There's a stretching.
Over the last couple of years,
yes,
especially because of the pandemic, we have spent a lot of times, a lot of programming that we've done, whether Words for the Soul or our Friday night chats, table talks, all those things have been dealing with us becoming better, wiser, and stronger. Good question.
How do you control the scent? Oh, love it.
Look at nephew.
Now, that's a good question. We're going to go to that. Yes.
But I think that goes back to Dominique's point. Sometimes I may need to go get help to learn how to fish differently, may also learn to control the scent. If the scent I'm giving off is not the scent that I want to give off, then I need to figure out what it is that I'm giving off, right?
Right.
So if I want marriage, I can't give up the scent of marriage, but acting like I want short term.
Right.
Right. And if I want short term, vice versa. If I want to be in relationship, sometimes a friendship, but I need to be able to be authentically me, also mean I got to be allowing them to be authentically them. However, them may not look what I want.
Okay.
Right. What I mean by that. Sometimes we have differences in culture.
Okay.
Right. And we have to sit down and learn the cultural differences. Sometimes I may have a type, but the person I like doesn't fit that type.
And so, you know what? You have to be honest to say, you know what? I see this only as a friendship, and I don't see it. Sometimes we prolong things because we don't want people to be hurt. But if you're in a friendship and you're wanting this relationship to maybe go into a marriage, then you have to let them know. We used to say a long time ago, every potential date could be your potential mate.
Right.
So you have to be honest to say, as you're dating that person, you know what? I see this as a friendship. And right now I'm in this season where I'm not just I'm looking for more. And you have to be honest with that. Don't play with people's emotions. How do you control that scent? Let them know you're tired of playing games. I'm not here just for I'm gonna say it right now. I'm not here for between the sheets. I'm not here for that. But I'm looking for someone that I can see as my husband, or I can see as my wife. That's how you control the scent. Being authentic and being real. No, I'm not engaged in that anymore. No. I'm looking for who God has for me.
And you control where you fish.
Yeah.
If the scent is always in that area, don't go back to that area.
Go to a different pool.
Right.
To fish it.
I mean, Lord Almighty, it's all what you want, and you control what you want.
Right.
Right. However, let me go back to you and I. We were not looking for each other to be husband and wife.
No.
We were friends.
Yes.
And that was reluctantly, from my part, enter into a friendship. But the Lord joined us together. And I think we were wise enough to see over time that it became friends, because I didn't like you when I first met you. This week, without going to the story. But because of my job connected to your job,
Mhm.
we became friends.
Right.
And that was all it was. It wasn't looking to be a boyfriend, girlfriend. But after that, we started hanging out. But you won't do whatever you want, and I won't do it. Hey, what you doing?
Right.
Nothing. You want to go to the movies? Let's go to the movies. Let's go bowling.
Mhm.
It was a friendship. And I think God controlled that for us intentionally because we became best friends before dating.
Okay.
Like, what am I saying? Lots of time, get to know the person before you try to become the next step, right? Know what helps them to be.
All right.
Who are they being versus who are they doing?
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
Many times we're concerned about what people are doing, but not what they're being. And here's a quick one. Hey, how you doing? Right?
Mhm.
Try this next time. Hey, how you been? Most folks don't know how to answer that question, right? Because we define people by what they're doing.
Right.
I want to know how you're being.
Wow. You know what? That just transitions us into our next question.
We have another
How
question?
to ask the right question.
Ooh.
So we're saying in our relationships, we want to relax, release, and relate. We want to fish differently. We want to throw off a new scent. Asking the right questions when you're with that person. What do you see this relationship going? Do you see do you desire to have children? Talking and asking those questions. All those questions may not be easy. Do you see me being able to go back to school? Do you see us being able to get a new house, a new car? But asking the right questions, having them in your thought and not expressing them is not going to help the relationship.
That's a good point. I don't see that's a question. Like I'm saying, this question's coming to me. And I can you. You know, as I'm listening to you, I thought about being in seminary.
Yes, sir.
And one of the things I learned in seminary, good theology begins with good questions.
That's true.
So when you said something about children and all those things,
Mm-hmm.
if you are in a relationship and you're wanting children and the person you're in a relationship with doesn't want children, you need to determine that's a deal breaker or not.
Right.
Right. Is that something you're willing to compromise?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not willing to compromise, I'm doing some counseling right now for a person.
Mm-hmm.
And she loves children,
Mhm.
but don't want children.
Wow.
So when I asked her why she don't want children, she said, because my childhood was rough.
Wow. Okay. The
Her
trauma.
mother
Mhm.
abandoned her at age 13.
Okay.
And she pretty much was on her own, living with different relatives throughout, and does not want to raise a child in a world that's so harsh.
Wow.
Right? And all the
Wow.
other stuff going
Wow.
on. So she is prepared not to have children for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
But however, if you're going to be in a relationship, does the man or woman you're going to be in a relationship okay with that?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe actually she's finished getting going through her understanding the trauma, the triggers. Maybe that may change for her, but right now she doesn't want it. Right?
Okay.
That's a conversation you need to have. That's a deep stuff you need to pull out versus the surface stuff, because even after she's may never get healed, understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But even after she understands the trauma and the triggers of the trauma, she still may feel like she don't want children.
Right.
And that's the question you need to ask. Am I okay with that?
Am I okay?
Yeah.
So asking the right questions. And you know what? As you were speaking, that's scary for some people because of the unknown of what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't deal with the past of the hurts or begin to get healed, so when we go into that relationship, just saying the wrong, someone talked about a trigger, and they mentioned something, oh, I want to have kids. That trigger was like, oh, I'm scared. I don't want to enter into that relationship because I don't want to deal with that past. But in growing and fishing differently, you got to ask God, help me to help me that I can get healed. And if this is the relationship that you desire for me, that I may end up having children. I remember, for instance, when Kel, one of our Elder Kendrick's daughters, she used to babysit our girls. Oh, my girls
Tasha,
used to.
Tasha. It was Tasha.
They would cry
It
and
was
she
Tasha.
would say, "Oh, I am never having children." Oh, because my kids.
No, it
because
wasn't the kids. It
it
was
was
Tasha.
Tasha.
Tasha traumatized Kel.
I would go to work and Bishop would go to work. And
we were going someplace and
she
Kel
just cried.
had to babysit her. You was going for an interview or something.
Okay.
And Kel
Tasha.
had to babysit her for short term. Wasn't long term, maybe an hour or two.
Oh.
Man, Kel came back and Tasha cried the whole time.
She said, "I am not having children."
Right.
But now God has blessed her. She has children, and she's
Right.
doing one has a beautiful
Right.
relationship in marriage.
But I want to go back to the word trigger.
Yes.
Understand when you pull the trigger, touch the trigger, do something.
Mm-hmm.
It may come back at you in forms of anger
Right.
or defensiveness.
Yeah.
Or many people protect that cover, that trigger,
Yeah.
right? Because other times they don't understand it.
True. Or they're not aware of it.
No, not aware of it. And it
Mhm.
may come back to you in the form of anger, resentment, whatever.
Mhm.
Because we're protecting an area of our life that we don't want anybody to touch.
Yes.
It's that landmine.
Yeah.
And you may step on one and blow up, and you're trying to figure out what happened. Right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
all you ask a simple question, boom, and it goes south.
Yes.
But that's why it's good to go and understand how to mend your nets, wash your nets, because those are the things that help you to enter into the tough places, the hard places, so we can go breast to breast and heart to heart
In the relationship.
in a relationship. Because if I am breast to breast and heart to heart, we're close.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm trying to be in a relationship, as they say, with a long-handled spoon, it's not going to work sometimes.
That's true. Very good, Bishop. So as we are in those who are online, go ahead and share what you have. If you want to share something that was said today, put that in the chat that you can use to fish differently as you relax, you release and relate. Bishop, I'm going to ask you to share some words of wisdom on as far as if it's dealing with mending the nets in relationships, how to relax in a relationship, how to release, or how to release or to relate in a relationship.
I am going to give a word of wisdom based off of a piece of the writing that I'm writing now in chapter 1.
Okay.
I've done, those of you who know how I get inspirations in certain spirits, right?
Okay.
So Friday, I put a little few things down based on what you just read a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended this phrase with mental hygiene.
Yes.
Right. And I haven't developed that yet. I'm developing to understand what does mental hygiene mean, right? I know what dental hygiene means. You got to do all the checkup, the cleaning, right?
Yes, sir.
So what does mental hygiene mean? And I'm just speaking as I'm speaking to you is the thoughts that's coming to my mind. And I'm glad this is going to be recorded because I could go back and listen to this and get my inspiration on the word from thought to words to pages.
Yes.
Mental hygiene means I need to do the things quarterly or annually that is healthy.
Okay.
Right. What does that mean? I don't know what it means for you. I know what it means for me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in ministry, I'm a father, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a husband.
Mm-hmm.
I am an uncle. I'm a son.
Mm-hmm. Brother.
I'm a brother.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm a chaplain. I'm a pastor.
Yeah.
I'm a bishop. I wear all these hats.
Yes.
Right. And each hat has its own weight.
It does.
And if I am going to be effective in what I do, I must cleanse.
Right? Speak now.
So I have a therapist.
Okay.
A counselor that I go to quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Somebody say that's too much. I don't know what you go through. Mm-hmm. I go through quite a bit. I hear people's problems every single day. Right. So I carry that weight sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I got a whoosha.
Yeah.
So I can be effective for the next person.
Yes.
But that quarterly sometimes means calling my therapist up, hey, I need to see you today or tomorrow because of da 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 da.
Yes.
Right. So that quarterly is the hygiene.
Okay.
And out of that hygiene, develop a relationship where I can get to your phone number or can get to you when I need you. Mm-hmm. Right. So when you have your dentist, if you have a toothache, the dentist say, hey, come and see me at 5:00.
Right.
You got to suffer that until you see the dentist. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, but that hygiene piece means it's something you got to pay attention to on a regular basis. It's not every now and again. It's a regular basis. Because I can say it again, every relationship, every role has an attachment.
Right.
And if you don't understand those attachments, it will stick with you and last with you. And you're going to carry something into a relationship that you don't want to carry in.
Oh, my goodness.
Deep,
that's
right?
Powerful.
Yeah. And that was profound. I don't care what nobody say.
Very profound, Bishop. But you kept saying intentional. You have to, you can look right up here. Mm-hmm. You have to be intentional to make sure you're being healthy in your relationship. You're strengthening those relationships. Yes, it may cause for you both to fast together.
Right.
There's time.
But
Go
that's
ahead.
mental hygiene, like
Yeah,
fasting,
Dustin.
something you do on a regular basis.
Yes.
Yes.
Praying together on a regular basis. Standing in and walking in nature, doing prayer walks, whatever that may be for you, to help you to cleanse, to refresh, to empty out so God can pour back into you.
In sign language, this is a T. Mm-hmm. And when you do a teacher, you do this because the teacher is constantly emptying out. Yes. And once you empty out, you got to be replenished.
You have to replenish, right? Yes.
And so I look at this mental hygiene is something you got to do on a regular basis. I'm sure I'm going to develop more as it gets deeper into this, but that's a thought that I ended with on Friday, and it's been running around my brain. You know me, sometimes I get it and then it goes.
But you know what though? Back. But as I hear it, I capture that because I'm going to say, you know what? You said you're going to do this for me, and you said you do this in other relationships. So as somebody speaks something out, or they're making that declaration, help them to hold fast to what they say. Say, remember you said this? I'm going to help you to make sure you can help fulfill that. Mm-hmm. As he is writing his book and sharing different things. Oh, remember, this is what you're going to do. You're going to stay on this timeline, or this is what we're going to do to stay on this timeline. So I want to say thank you tonight as we are on Words for the Soul, as we are relaxing, release, and relate. I want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah. So I'm going to do co-host today. I'm not kind of co-host now. I moved from guest to co-host. Put something in the chat that stood out to you today.
Oh, I thought I had said that, but thank you. Do it again.
I like to close out with all my classes. Yes, you takeaway.
Yes.
What's your takeaway today? What is the thing that when we sign off the air that you're going to hold on to when we get off the air? I think for me that is helpful to know to guide the next conversation.
I like that, and I'm going to put that down as you're saying. Go ahead and put what are your takeaways? Mm-hmm. Let's do that. If you would share something, what are your takeaways? What are your ways? Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oops. One moment. Let's get that. We're going to see right there. All right. Let's get this to the side right up there. So if you would, let's see. Oh, nope, I did the wrong one. Just one moment.
Well, they can hear you.
Okay, so what are your takeaways? Yeah. So if you don't mind, what are your takeaways? What have you learned from or received from Words for the Soul number 124 in Relax, Release, and Relate? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Something that you have did a takeaway. And then, yes, I have my Cash App. If you want to go ahead and sow a seed, my Cash App is # Emma, EMMAWOWW. Emma, wow, woman of word. And then just an extra one. Woo! But what are your takeaways? I see someone knowing and to understanding the person you are, dating so you can know if that's what the work worth the work that would be needed to make it work. Thank you for sharing. Anyone else? What are some of the things? What are your takeaways from tonight's lesson on Relax, Release, and Relate? Next week, as you're writing that in there, let me just share. Bishop and I, we are going to relax, release, and relate next week. So next week, we will not have Words for the Soul because we're going to relax, release, and relate. We're taking ourselves out of town and we're just having our time together. And so some of those things as we share tonight, we make sure we implement what we speak about. We're going to go have fun. We're going to relax and relate, release and relate to one another. Self-care.
Gallivanting.
You have to have fun. Just minister to be intentional on all my relationships. And that's important. If it's your work, your marriage, your friendships, you know what? Even relationship with your siblings, you need to make sure that you're using those honestly. Trust, respect, and value. Thank you for sharing that.
The other thing is, some people may not understand your work relationship.
Yes,
could be just as important as your other relationship.
Yes,
you say, no. You never know how long term that relationship may be. I have been working at UIW now for 25 years, and most of the people who I've been working with in my team, we've been there at least 20 years or more together.
Yes,
and that's like family.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So you want to have healthy relationships. So I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I am Overseer Emma Alexander, and I say to you, you have an awesome week, knowing that you put a smile and smile at somebody. Let somebody know that you see them, you hear them, and that they matter. So Bishop Alexander, thank you for being with me tonight on Words for the Soul. We love you all. See, not next week. We'll see you the week after, because we are going to relax, release, and relate. And we're going to relate to one another.
And gallivant.
And gallivant. God bless y'all.